2, 3, 4. How many hours of sleep does Elon Musk get? Hey, it's Coach Vulcan, and tonight I want to explore with you how many hours of sleep does Elon Musk get every single night, and also I want to share with you one of Elon Musk's secrets, something he's been doing for the last 16 years before bed that is helping him sleep at night. So, with all of that said, let's get started. So, going back in time, it's 2004 and Elon Musk, he hasn't sent any rockets into space yet. What he does want to do though, he has his eyes set on Mars. He wants to send his rocket into space, not just into space, but land it on Mars and send people there, and maybe even he himself set his food on the red planet. But he has a little bit of a problem. He has never sent any rockets into space. He's not a billionaire yet. He's just a millionaire at that moment. And I know being a millionaire, it's a pretty cool thing. But it's not enough to send rockets all the way to Mars. So what did he do? In 2004, he built SpaceX. And he got, as a client, the US government. They gave him $100 million to send a rocket into space to kind of prove his concept that he can do that. So now his goal was to do that, to have his first successful launch, a rocket being launched into space. Now, how does all that relate to his sleep? Well, here is how. It relates not just to his sleep, but also to the sleep of all 300 of his employees, actually, because when the US government gave him that $100 million, do you think they were just, hey, here's $100 million, do whatever you want with it? No. They gave that money to him on the condition that Elon Musk builds the rocket and sends that rocket into space by the end of that year, 2004. Which meant that Elon Musk now had to work not 8 hours a day, not 12 hours, not 10, not 12, but 12 hours a day. Let me actually check with it, 12 or more. Yeah, not 8, not 10, but 12-hour work days. So that's what he did. That's what he and all of his team, they would stay all day at the office working, building that rocket. But you can imagine right after they were done, there was also all this pressure from work, all this stress from the deadline to build that rocket. So how did they mitigate that? What did they do so they could fall asleep easily at night? Well, here's what Elon did. Let me check, was it 8 or was it 9? At 8 p.m. Every single night at 8 p.m. he had a little bit of a ritual. He announced, as soon as the arrow of the clock hit 8 p.m., Elon Musk would stand up from his desk, he would look at all his employees, and he would announce playtime. What is playtime? Everybody, all the rocket scientists, they shut off their rocket scientist programs, and they turn on gaming programs. That's right, they played games. They would, from rocket science, they would start playing spaceships. They would put on that on their computers and they would start fighting. Or maybe they would do some other games. The important thing was they would enjoy themselves, they would play, they would wind down. And then they would go to sleep. Not after having all that rocket science stuff, but after they relax and enjoy themselves. So, what happened? Well, in 2005, early 2005, they built a rocket, the Vulcan 1. And then in 2006, they set it up to send it into space. And as soon as they did, everybody from their tower, Elon and his team, they were watching the launch. And the rocket, it was sent into space. It shot off, and as it did, just as it was about to go into, just as about it was to go into, from atmosphere to space, it broke. Fumes started coming off, orange and red flames started erupting, and the rocket exploded. Oh, that money that was put into it. Oh, that time and effort, all those 8, 10, 12-hour work days were gone. The rocket was destroyed. So what happened next? Well, Elon decided to make a second rocket. So that's what they did. They went on back to work again, 12-hour work days. Now Elon had some more pressure on him. One from the US government who wanted a rocket, that wanted the rocket already in 2004 being sent into space. Now it's 2006, there's no rocket anymore. So there's that pressure from them. And there's also the added pressure from work. But Elon, he had a choice now. He could put more hours, maybe work 14 hours, maybe even 16 hours, and reduce his downtime, his what he called the party time. Was it? Let me check. I want to make sure. Yes, party time. Get the facts correctly, right? So he could have sacrificed his party time for his work time. He could have done that. Did he do that? With all that extra pressure? No, he did not sacrifice that. As soon as 8 p.m. struck, he would announce party time. Everybody would shut off their computers and they would start playing. And then, in 2008, I believe, there was a second launch. Don't quote me on the exact date because I haven't written it down in my notes. In 2007, I believe. In 2007, there was a second launch. They had built their Vulcan 1 the second time, and they shot that rocket into space. Everybody was holding their breath as the rocket was sent there. And did it go all the way into space? Did it blow up or did it blow up? Well, this time the rocket did not blow up, but for some reason it stopped. Something again happened and the rocket just plummeted down into the ground. And then when it came down to the ground, then it exploded once again. Now, this was bad because with that remember that 100 million that the US government gave Elon Musk? Well, now it was running dry. He had enough money for just one last rocket to build and send into space. And if that had blown up as well, then his dream to sending people into Mars, that was gone. If he could not even send a rocket into space, how he could send people all the way to Mars? If he can't send a rocket without any people into space, that's impossible. So now he had that. Now he went into building that rocket, and he had even more pressure on himself. He had a triple pressure this time from the US government expecting him to send that rocket into space, from working all these hours, and also from his employees, because if this did not work out, he would have to send all his 300 employees back home and fire them. And basically all of them, they depended on him. They would lose their jobs. So everybody, all eyes on Elon, his friends, his family, everybody was expecting him that he would send this rocket into space. Will he do it? Or is he just a dreamer? So with all that added pressure, he could have sacrificed. He had a choice once again. He could sacrifice his sleep and his sleep time, which was, by the way, about 8 to 9 hours a night, or he could put more hours into it. Work instead of 12 hours, maybe work 14 or 16 hours. As a burner, someone who burns the candle at both ends all the time. So what did he do? Elon Musk, 8 p.m. struck. Did he announce playtime? Yes. Once again, Elon decided to do that. And then they played. Yes, they put all the work that they wanted. They put all their work and all their effort into building that third rocket, into sending it into space. And they got better. They upgraded their skills. They upgraded their knowledge. But they did not sacrifice their downtime, or what they call their playtime, ever. And as they kept building that, it was September 28th, 2008. In the morning, Elon Musk, he took his kids to Disneyland to unwind once again, to relieve himself of all that pressure, because later that day, he was about to send that third rocket into space, make the third and final attempt. If this did not work out, that was it. No more attempts. So what happened? On 28th of September 2008, he came back in the evening with his car, with all his friends and his brother. They went into the tower of SpaceX and they launched the launch of Vulcan 1 third time. Everybody was holding their breath for the third time as the rocket was launched into space. And this time, as it went into space, as it went into the atmosphere, the big thing was, will it break? Will it go off from atmosphere to space? And this time, it did. It did go all the way there. But as soon as the rocket went from atmosphere to space, something happened. The engines shut off. Why did they shut off? Did something bad happen again? Well, here's something interesting. When a rocket is sent into space, it uses all of its fuel, about 90 to 95% of its fuel, just to break Earth's gravitational pull and get sent into the atmosphere. After that, after it's in space, all the engines, all the fuel shuts off and the rocket just coasts, for the most part, just coasts into space without using any more fuel. And that is what the rocket did. The launch, in other words, was finally successful. Third attempt, baby, third time's the charm. After all that work and all that effort growing, evolving their attempt, that third rocket was sent into space. And everybody cheered, people were crying and laughing, and they slept well that night. So, before I end with the end of our story here, next up, coming on our celebrity series, celebrity secret episodes, I have something very interesting. But before I give you a preview of what's coming up next, I just want to mention, in life, we have two choices when it comes to our work and our health. We can either be a healthist or a burnist. What is a burnist? A burnist is somebody who burns the candle at both ends. They work, 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 as Rihanna sang a few years ago back then in 2004, 2006. Work, 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 work. And when it comes to work, 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 the bad thing about that is that it is work that sacrifices health. So Elon, he could have done that, but no, instead of burning himself out and instead of burning his health and his life out, he always put sleep, always put value into sleep. Those are the two choices. You can be a healthist or a burnist. And that is it for this episode. What's coming up next though? Well, before I give you a hint about who's our next character, it's somebody, by the way, who has insomnia, who used to have insomnia. He did 3 specific things to help him with his insomnia, to help cure his insomnia. But before I give you a hint who he is, I just want to spend a minute and talk about Elon. And if you don't want to talk about Elon, you can just skip ahead and click the right arrow there. In life, we have, in those moments when we have a lot of work, a lot of pressure put into us, we all have that choice that Elon also had. We can either be a healthist or a burnist. What's a burnist? A burnist is somebody who burns themselves out, who takes the candle and who burns it at both ends, working all the time. And yeah, somebody could do that for a while, but long term, what happens long term is that you burn the candle, you burn your sleep, you burn your health. And as Matthew Walker, the #1 sleep researcher on the planet, says, the less you sleep, the less you live. So it's a choice. You can either be a burnist or a healthist. If you're a healthist, you do your wind down, you have a party time or something else that puts you in that relaxed sleep, like we have, like you and I have on this channel with our bedtime reading stories. So you could have that, you could have something else. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to value your health and your sleep. Or if you value work instead, that's totally fine. Just know that that means burning the sleep and burning the health. So that's it. Tangent over. Next episode, who do we have? So I'm gonna challenge you and kind of give you a few hints. I'm interested to see if you can guess who will we have next episode. So here's the hint. Tell me this. What do Black Jesus, a gladiator, and a priest with supermodels all have in common? What's the one thing they all have in common? Black Jesus, gladiator, and a priest with supermodels. Yeah. Strange one, isn't it? And I'm gonna give you one more hint about this man who used to have insomnia and who did 3 specific things to help him cure his insomnia. Here's your second hint. Only 1 week it will take. We will go down in history. You will remember me for centuries. Who is coming up next? Well, tune in next week to find out. Bye.